Hello, and welcome to the Open for Business Strategies for Creating a Path Forward webcast, brought to you by HP Large Format Media. My name is Sean McGettigan, and joining me today are Patrick Calloway, Dan Vasquez, and Dan Barbario. Thanks for joining us, guys.
Thanks, Sean.
As countries, states, and cities begin to reopen in some places and plan to reopen in others, we wanted to help you by discussing the various ways that print has and can help the businesses in your community. Among other things today, we'll talk about some print applications that are in demand, some success stories that we're hearing about from the industry, and some ideas for marketing and content that you might want to provide your customers. So let's go ahead and jump right in. Patrick, I'll start with you. What are some ideas, maybe even an opportunity that this pandemic has created? What are some ideas that maybe some of our listeners or viewers might be able to implement in their own business?
Good question, Sean. You know, it's ironic. I think part of being an entrepreneur is finding opportunity even in challenged climates, and I think that's part of our fabric as a country, and you know, part of our culture and entrepreneurial nature of our country. So with that said, we speak in our roles on the HP Media team to both end users, resellers, master distributors, and very large chains that are print service providers as well. And what I've seen is it's a wide gamut of either carnage or huge success. And what I'm talking about on that regard is, on one regard, I have clients that have called me and they said, Pat, I shut down. When this vaccine comes out, maybe I'll be able to reopen. And we're seeing some things like that in the news with restaurants that just can't keep the doors open. And then on the other hand, we're seeing clients that are in our specific niche that are print service providers, fulfillment agency type model, where they're doing printing, but previously they only did printing for their region. But luckily for them, they used to do printing just for the Midwest, and somebody else printed for the East Coast and the West Coast. And now, lucky for this particular client of mine, not so lucky for the folks in the coasts, the East Coast printer happened to be in New York. The West Coast printer happened to be in San Francisco, two of the most highly impacted COVID markets in our country. And both of those companies shut down. What that resulted in was for my client to be having record months during the COVID national shutdown. And they're running 150 to 200% to their plan. So I think that Dan, what do you say? What's your saying? Dan's always got these great sayings about being lucky.
Yeah. It's the harder I work, the luckier I get.
Mm-hmm.
That's been a slogan. It's been a mantra of mine, and I have a lot of the same types of customer situations that you're talking about, Patrick. I've got folks that service specifically theme parks and other types of organizations, and they've had pretty much complete shutdowns. And then I've got other customers that, again, it's the niche market that they service, right? And so another example of a customer, they do birthday parties. They do birthday banners and birthday graphics packages. Their business is absolutely booming because of the stay-at-home orders, right? More and more people are having to stay home. They're having at-home birthday parties. They still want to make their kids feel special, right? So they're ordering these graphics packages. They're having drive-by birthday parties where they'll have a caravan of, their friends and family come by. And so, these are folks that were doing, let's call it 150 rolls every 45 days, right? Prior to the COVID-19. Now they're doing those 150 rolls in 20 days. So their production has more than doubled. So it really is an example of, find the right niche and there's still opportunity.
Great.
That's a good point. And another thing that I found kind of a more applicable on a broader scale to a lot of our listeners. I spoke with one gentleman who, he had a website, one of my resellers, and but maybe it wasn't up to a standard where he wanted to take this website and social media strategy. And so he decided to take this opportunity with the slowdown. He went through a period where he suffered a massive slowdown. He decided this is as good of a time as ever to go ahead and give my website and e-commerce site that full overhaul that it needs. And he's investing about $150,000 into that full redevelopment. So I think that the real question for all of us and the folks tuning in today is how do we pull that in and make it relevant for us? What can we do in our businesses to get ready for the, to be more prepared for this COVID shutdown, because it doesn't seem to be going away anytime soon. And then more specifically, the future beyond COVID, because I think that the flat world in which we all live is here to stay.
And Pat,
Yeah,
just to add to that, having a digital presence is important now as it has ever been in the past. And to your point, you have this customer that is investing a good amount of resource. We might have to consider that this will be a standard into the future. So a lot of our customers should be considering, how could we revamp our website? How could we outreach better digitally to our customer base? You had that earlier example about customers that have been focused on specific regions in the past. Now, regions outside of their work base are being affected, and now they're taking a good portion of this business. And I feel that that's something, if you don't have a digital presence available, you're not in front of these customers that may need your resources.
Gotcha.
good point.
Very true. Yeah.
Well, in that same regard, I guess, maybe Dan Vasquez, what are some ideas that print service providers can be doing to help their communities now, and maybe even driving sales during this time? I know, like Patrick was mentioning, certain customers are way up, others are having difficulties even staying open, or they're having to furlough employees. Maybe what are some things they can be doing to kind of get back into some semblance of a routine?
We are seeing, and everyone could attest to it, I mean, we're all still consuming. We're going to the grocery stores.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of these restaurants are in the process of opening up. You have a lot of public areas, public transportation, public displays that still require signage. You have government regulatory agencies, municipalities that require specific signage to be made available. You have commercial areas such as grocery stores and restaurants that are going through this process of opening. And you could go into any of these facilities and notice that the signage is changing around. You have items that are being displayed in the exteriors and interiors, giving warnings as to what the new protocols
Mm-hmm.
are to be able to open up successfully. And as a lot of these commercial areas are in the process of reopening, signage is important to be able to let the public know when they are developing new schedules, when they are allowing additional people to come in and use these facilities.
Yeah, I would agree wholeheartedly. I think the key for businesses to keep opportunities in front, keep abreast of what's going on in the COVID atmosphere, right? Be able to counsel your print service providers on which applications are hot, right? What trends, what are we doing with menus, floor graphics, keeping abreast of what's going on in the marketplace and where the high demand and volume items are, and being able to coach basically your customer on, these are what's been successful. These are the things that restaurants have done that have been successful. Because, my wife and I, shamefully have been to a couple of restaurants, right? I'll call it a work experiment, right? So over the weekend, we went to a couple of restaurants. One of them failed miserably, in our opinion, and another did wonderful, right? So one of the restaurants had live music. The tables were spaced fine, okay, but they gave us laminated menus, right, that no one washed down in front of us. Our table wasn't washed down in front of us. There was ketchup and salt and pepper shakers on the table. They weren't wearing gloves or masks. So we didn't feel comfortable. We didn't feel safe, right? And then we went to another establishment that had all the above. All of the staff members were wearing masks, gloves. They brought the condiments out as a side to your meal. They offered us sanitizer at the table. They handed us paper throwaway menus. So it's really, the messaging is important, right? And to have signage for the one, if they had signage, the one that failed, right? If they had a signage that said all surfaces wiped down, or, something that explained, that made us feel safe and comfortable. They simply didn't have that. And that's an important thing to be able to coach, I think.
Yeah, and I think
I totally agree.
Pat, I think just
Yeah, and
one quick second to Dan's point. There are a lot of things that businesses can be doing to make their customers more comfortable. And I know we're kind of talking in generalities right now as far as some applications go, but are there any specific print applications that, since we're talking about restaurants, beyond menus, what else can they be doing right now? What can print service providers be offering from an application standpoint to restaurants to make sure that people are comfortable when they go in there?
Yeah, and I'll jump on that one as well, and you guys can add to it. But I think some of the traditional signage, right, we see a decrease in roll-up banner stands, right, because there's not trade shows and, a lot of things have been canceled. So having A-frames or roll-up banner stands, in the front to show these are the steps we're taking to protect our customers, right? These are the things that we're doing to implement safety and to keep our staff and our customers safe, right? So those types of signage, floor graphics, window graphics, in addition to their, banners that say, hey, curbside to go, park here, we'll bring it to your car. Those types of things I think are huge.
Cool.
Yeah, and I think that you guys bring up some really important points because let's face it. I mean, you turn on the news, depending on which news channel you pop on, and you've got different narratives going on out in the market, and you have certain people that are scared to death. In my own family, my wife is a caregiver for her mother, and she has autoimmune deficiency, so we have to be maybe more careful than a lot of folks out there. And then you have other folks that are walking around as if nothing's happened, and I think you've got the two extremes. But as a business owner and as a print service provider, what can you do to help make people feel more comfortable? So I think that over-communicating is so key, and it's messaging, over-messaging. I mean, we've all been doing little projects around our houses, right, because we haven't really been going anywhere. So you've been to Home Depot, you've been to Lowe's. Just think about those two examples. I mean, you've seen certain stores that just had blue tape on the floor, others that had social distance, please stay 6 feet apart. You can pick on Walmart. I was in Walmart the other day. They seem to have had a pretty good handle on a lot of the floor graphics. I didn't see a lot of other signage throughout the facility. Maybe there was, but I think there's an opportunity to do exactly what Dan said, where you over-communicate all the things that you're doing. We're spraying down with disinfectant every however many minutes. All of these things. We're people that are preparing the products to be put on the shelves or cleaning them off before, whatever it is that you're doing. And it's up to the business owner to tell the print service provider what it is that they want to have on their messaging, but it's up to the print service provider to offer up, hey, look, Mr. Business Owner, Mr. Retailer, here are all the things that we've been seeing in the market. These are the things that we can help you put up as signage. We could put stuff on easels. We could do banner stands. We could do floor graphics. We could do outdoor banners. Sorry, I'm getting overexcited here, but you guys, I think, have probably all seen these different applications, and I think more is more in this regard.
There lies an opportunity, Patrick. I think you had an excellent point. A lot of these print service providers could be considering sharing a lot of these packages for various types of customers. Your grocery stores, your restaurants. You have a set catalog of items that may help them in regards to indoor signage versus outdoor signage, considering longevity and durability of some of these products. Are you able to clean these products? Is it something that, if you're building a decent amount of traffic, would they tear? Are they tear resistant? Items that you're able to switch out because regulations and messaging, it will be changing quite frequently during this time. So consider those items as well.
From that standpoint, I know, not to get too product heavy, but are there specific products within the HP portfolio that would meet some of the needs right now that you kind of just went through?
Yeah, I mean, I think the portfolio as a whole is built for exactly that. We have the new HP removable adhesive fabric that would be perfect for window graphics, short-term temporary signage, these types of things. Our everyday matte polypropylene would be a great product to offer some tear resistance versus just another throwaway. I mean, it's inexpensive enough to be a potential throwaway menu item for your higher-end dining experiences, but it's durable. It's tear resistant. It's got more of a feel of film than paper. So I think those are a couple of good ones, in addition to all the banner, the opaque scrim banner that we offer. Is wonderful letting customers know, hey, we're back in action. We have curbside, grand reopening signs, those types of things.
I'm kind of talking a little bit about product now that kind of brings supply chain to mind. What are you guys hearing out there regarding supply chain? Are there any things that are impacting the industry right now?
Well, I know Dan wants to tell you about a very specific situation. Just to kind of start off, what I was going to mention is, I'm sticking with my over-communicate message, because I'll give you an example. We supply one big box, store chain that has 1,500 locations, some odd 1,500, and we supply them with a banner stand material that they've fallen off on, because think about where people typically are using banner stands. Maybe a lot of them aren't using them the way Dan presented or suggested earlier in restaurants. They're using them to do trade shows or using them to do things that we haven't really been doing here over the last 2-3 months. So their actual purchasing fell off a cliff on that product. However, they're reopening all these stores, or their hours are going back to what they were. So they're printing 3 banners per store. Plus, they're recommending clients do the same. So their banner usage went through the roof. Okay, so it's kind of like whack-a-mole. One goes down, the other one pops up. And I feel like for those of you that are listening to the call, you probably experienced this, whether you were trying to get your hands on floor graphics and everybody and their brother are out until next month, or whether you are trying to buy a product that you normally don't purchase on a regular basis. So our demand planning software hasn't been able to pick that up. So I think that the trick to this is, if you win a new job, then the more over communicating that you can do, the better. It gives us an opportunity to talk to our factories, bring in the base supply, and get it here. A lot of the stuff's made in the U.S., but some of it's made overseas, and you could be looking at 60, 90 days from the time where it hits the water and can actually make it into our warehouse.
We're seeing everything we thought we knew basically has changed, right? Some of our highest volume movers, where we had maybe 2 months of inventory on hand, that 2 months inventory has now turned into 6 or 9 months inventory, right, due to changing buying habits. Other products that are considered our slow movers may have bumped up to some of our highest volume that we can't keep on the shelves, right? So it really has changed a lot. We are seeing increased lead times and even national stockout positions, to Pat's point, on some items like floor graphics, the high demand graphics, due to the COVID-19 atmosphere. We have been seeing some delays in shipments overseas, right? And especially from China. They were where this all started, and it's been, one of the most impacted countries. So, we're seeing that European shipping routes have had a severe space limitations, right? So coming from overseas into Europe anyhow, and it's caused some major delays. We've done a lot as a company to mitigate some of the supply chain, right? We're recommending, maybe consider buying American, right? U.S. made product obviously is going to be brought to market in a more, efficient manner. It's here. China tariffs was another big thing. They affected our industry, as with many other industries prior to COVID-19. But we've done a lot of things to mitigate some of those, some of those side effects. We have maneuvered some of our manufacturing or product manufacturing to countries that aren't affected by the tariffs, to be able to bring you products that are, lower cost, still high quality. We have a lot of U.S.-based manufacturing facilities for many of our product portfolios. We have U.S. converting facilities that convert on demand for a lot of our, HP product line. So we've done a lot of things to kind of help, speed to market, if you will.
That's a good point. One other quick follow-up on that. Sorry, Dan, just really fast. Just because you mentioned the local, converting, just yesterday, and it wraps into the restaurant, I had a gentleman call that wanted to put clear film between the tables at a restaurant. So, I'm not a medical expert. I don't know if that's going to prevent the COVID spread, but that's what this particular chain of restaurants wants to do. They want 5,000 banner stands in their chain in between all the tables. And in that banner stand, they want a product like HP clear film. Well, we have the capability here in the U.S. to convert that to 33 inches, which is the width that's required for the banner stand. So that might not be something that pops up on our website, but for those of you listening, we can assist you with those types of oddball applications.
Great point.
Pat, you touched up on the website there. I'm going to lead into lines of communication and transparency. I mean, we as a company have invested in a good resource that's available to everyone in regards to observing inventory. Our inventory is live on our website for a good portion of our products. Again, use us as a resource. Communicate, let us know if you have fluctuations in certain products. It'll allow us to communicate that information to our procurement team and allow you to have the product at hand when you need it.
Great point.
Cool. Well, any happy stories we've got coming out so far? I mean, any success stories that you guys are hearing, from, your customers out in the industry?
Just think about your own family. A lot of us have kids or you have spouses or whatever. Think about the seniors in high school that aren't graduating like all of us did. It's a very different reality for them. So I work with a very large office supplies company that does a lot of in-house printing, and they're having huge success with their yard signs and with their banner business. In fact, it was up a pretty significant percentage year over year, even with the whole downturn. And it's because they've gotten creative and they're marketing to schools to say, hey, all those seniors that aren't going to be able to walk through graduation, we have a templated banner solution to announce their graduation, kind of like Dan, your client was doing the birthday party thing. They took it with the graduation. Then they're also doing kind of a supplement of yard signs to that as well. So you can kind of get to your point earlier, Dan Vasquez, you said these folks need to start offering packages. And I think that's probably one of the best things that any of us have said on this call. It's great advice that I think all of those of you listening should really go back and think to yourself, what can I do to start building packages that are very, very specifically addressing applications with your portfolio, with your print, capabilities to really kind of fix problems for your customers. So those are some of the bright spots that I've seen.
Yeah, and we've actually seen as a team, we've seen a lot of those applications, right, that Pat's discussing. So, for folks on the call that want to call in and get some recommendations, we're happy to go over those options, go over applications, products, get a little more into the nitty-gritty, right, on a product-based or applications-based training to, help guide you.
That's a great point, too. I know you guys are always available for those types of conversations. And really, like you said, getting into the nitty-gritty and finding out what the true requirements are for a particular application or project. So I would highly recommend that as well. I'm obviously a little biased, but I would definitely recommend calling you guys. You guys know your stuff for sure. So moving on here, and maybe we can kind of all kick this one around. Things are obviously starting to reopen right now in many places. Like I said, when we kicked this off, they're going to be reopening in others within the next few weeks or months. So one of the things, even us today, and really in any communication as a company that we've put out since this became our new reality, we've tried to really be sensitive to the situation and communicate with our customers in a way that reminds them that we care and we're there for them. So really it comes to the question, I guess I want us to kind of go through a little bit is how should we be communicating to our customers right now and not seem insensitive? So I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on that. We can kind of start there and kick that around a little bit. I mean, from my standpoint, one of the basic things that you guys can be doing as a print service provider, and even talking with your customers about doing the same thing, those customers that you're providing printing services for, let them know. Update your social media. If you have new hours, put it up on there. Email your customers. We can talk about content in a little bit on the next question. Update your website. Tell them what you're offering, what you're doing to keep your business going, the steps you're taking from a safety standpoint within your business to make sure they're comfortable coming in or working with you. I mean, what else do you guys think? What can people be doing from a communication standpoint right now?
Yeah, I think that you don't know what you're walking into with your clients. Everybody's situation is different. And I think you just have to try to remind yourself that, if you're blessed and you have no problems with COVID and no one in your family's been impacted, count yourself lucky or blessed or whatever you believe. But the reality is that, many of us have friends or colleagues that either have already lost somebody or got COVID. And, you talk to those people, it's real. It's a major issue in their household. So I think you just have to recognize that and, try to be understanding of it. But on the same token, try to do what you can do from, we all have a job to do, right? We all have to, put food on our tables, and we all do what we do in our industry. So the better you can prepare your company to help people address the situation, the more successful you're going to be. And I think that being sensitive to these things plays into that as well.
It's part of that relationship, that close relationship that you have with the customers. A lot of us have a lot of time on our hands to be able to have those conversations, reach out. It doesn't necessarily have to be about business 100% of the time. It allows you to understand your customer a little bit more. I think this is something that we should all be doing as a whole. And maybe their business is shut down for now. Maybe they've had to furlough a lot of their employees, but keep in contact with them. Follow up with them, check in on them, because at some point things will rev back up. And we just want them to know that we are communicating, we have a presence with each other, and we're willing to support them.
Yeah, that's a great point. Going back to your point, Sean, about businesses reopening and kind of forward looking. I think it's important that we communicate. Is it the right time to bring on stock? Right? That's a sensitive subject in itself, right? Bringing on extra stock, but I think by us guiding our customers, right, and helping them to realize what the future applications or maybe the hot demand products will be moving forward, and to be on the forefront of that, make sure that you're thinking about those things as the economy reopens, restaurants open, schools open. Here's what we see as being hot. These are the things that you should keep your eye on. Dan's point earlier, go to our website, right? Make sure that we have availability. Keep an eye on that so that as you're getting closer to reopening or jobs start coming back in the door, be ready to purchase those products and be able to solve those customer applications.
Good. Yeah, and I think kind of one of the things that I think a theme of what we're talking about now is just being human beings, just human contact. This isn't about business to business necessarily anymore. And what can we do to put our customers in a position to be successful, if not now, but once they come out of this. So maybe it is those conversations like you guys have been talking about. It's somewhat of a checking in, but have you thought about? I know you're not open now, but have you thought about when you do reopen, what you're going to need to do based on the various recommendations within your community for signage, distancing, so on and so forth.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a good point because it's different in every state or municipality. I mean,
yes.
So you do need to check your local rules and regulations and even laws. I think some states actually mandated various signage. Others it's more recommendations, but it's on you as the local business owner to figure out what requirements are in your area. So don't get you make sure you get ahead of that.
Yeah, definitely. I think we got one or two more questions left that I wanted to go through with you guys. Next one, do you guys have any ideas on marketing or content that print service providers, our viewers here today, might be able to provide for their customers during this time?
My view on that is I think this is makes all the difference in the world because, guys, we saw a great piece from one of our customers or a national, architectural and reprographics print service provider. They literally had hundreds of applications that they presented that were all these things that we were kind of nibbling around the edges on earlier in the conversation. Please keep 6 feet apart, new hours of operation, please respect the other patrons in my store. I mean, every kind of thing you can imagine of a sign that might be a decent idea to put up in any kind of a business. These folks published a guide that had 20 pages of applications. Oh, by the way, they can print them all for you. Good, kudos to them, right? So I think that they presented that, they email blasted that out. Okay, so that's one way to market it. But I think creating that content, I mean, gosh, I can't imagine how many man hours it took to build all those graphics that they put into that sign. They probably went, to an extreme. But I think that anything you can do on that regard to make it easier for your customers to come in, and Dan, you said it again earlier, the packages that you can build. So I think building those packages, building that content, and then making sure you're getting it out in front of folks, whether it be through, social media or email marketing, or what we're doing right here, doing a webinar or a downloadable video that somebody can pull down and get an update.
Yeah, our industry's always been about, a high degree of customization.
Mhm.
But to Pat and Dan's point about the packages, right? Those are something that you can mass produce, right? You just have to know what does a sign, is it 6 feet apart? What type of social distancing messaging needs to be on that signage? And put together the packages and make them readily available to your customers. And I think you'll see sales pick up, and doesn't hurt to market them, have a website to promote them, banner ads, these types of things will be a big help too.
And also make sure that you're receiving a lot of our marketing collateral digitally on a weekly basis. Our departments are sending out messages, adapting to a lot of these applications. Our website has a perfect landing page for you to be able to access a lot of these applications and signage and recommendations.
Yeah, good point. I wanted to throw one more piece out there, and it's that you're going into these stores right now and you're seeing generic signs because they needed it and they needed it fast, right? I think the next wave of this is going to be custom brand, centric versions of all this templated stuff, right? And I think, if I were in charge of Home Depot, I would want my logo, my color scheme, my, persona as a company, or whatever word you would use. Sean's the marketing guy. He's going to have to help me on that one. But, as opposed to just the vanilla keep 6 feet apart stuff that we've been seeing. What do you guys think of that? Is that something that?
That's a great point.
Branded print, branded print opportunities for those bigger type stores, even smaller ones, like you're saying. I know you guys are talking about templates, and I would highly recommend, I think you guys would too, have those templates ready and know that you're going to change out this logo, this color scheme, and make it easy on yourselves too. When you're offering these packages, show them the generic, or maybe show them a soft proof, a photo of what it would look like with their logo and colors on there, and just keep recycling that. That way it saves you time, and you're able to produce things a little bit faster.
Sean, what about social? I mean, you're probably the most expert on that here for certain. I mean, what can our clients do from a social media point of view that won't, I think a lot of these folks get intimidated by a lot of that. So what can they do that's not super complicated?
I mean, I think we kind of touched on that in a number of different ways on the call so far. It's getting relative content and producing relative content for your customers and putting that on Facebook. It's talking to them with the right tone. Again, we've talked about human to human as opposed to business. I think that's a huge one. Are there things that you can do to just keep your local community of customers engaged? Is there an Instagram photo contest you could run? And then the winner gets a certain prize, maybe a stretched canvas from you, or a poster, something along those lines, so it keeps people coming back to you. And we've seen some of that out there. There have been other companies that are just offering free printing, even in the meantime. Digital coloring books that they're printing out that you can then use in-house somewhere. Really, there's any number of things that you can do for your community, or even thinking about some of the different applications that you can run with the HP adhesive fabric that's just come out. Maybe run a promotion where you're able to do some sort of wall graphic for, I think we were talking about graduates earlier. Maybe it's for seniors, and you're offering some sort of promotion. It reminded me earlier when you were talking about the yard signs. My son's teachers, he's in 5th grade, and they're going to every single kid in their class today, and they're going to have yard signs and balloons and all sorts of stuff. And they're going to be honking out front just to make them feel a little bit special. But the reason they're able to do that is because they're seeing these ideas out there that other people are doing and our print service providers are offering. So I think the more content that you can get out there for these types of applications, whether it be on social, whether it be in email, the better. Because that's just going to give everyone else those ideas who haven't thought of them yet.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a snowball
Absolutely.
effect. So, you
That's
guys,
all good stuff.
yeah, you guys have anything else you want to add?
No, I think that was great.
I think so as well. I would just reiterate, communication is key, right?
Yep.
We try to over communicate. The more our customers, and channel partners can communicate with us, we'll only go to speak to help them a little more quickly, right? Make sure that their needs are taken care of.
Great. All right, guys. Listen, thank you for your time today. I'd like to thank everyone who's tuning in. If you guys have any questions, please visit hplfmedia.com or give us a call. The contact information's on there. I'd rather you get it there so you can get to the right region, get to the right people when you give us a call. And by all means, reach out with whatever you need, and we'll be there to help. So thanks again, everybody. Patrick, Dan, really appreciate your time again.
Thanks, Sean.
Thank you.
Much appreciated.
All right. Bye-bye now.